So it's been, that show was what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
That's insane. So much time
2021, I know.
Where are you now?
In terms of health, training, both?
Both.
Okay, so in terms of health, so I had the surgery in September 21. I was in hospital for 3-4 weeks, I think. And then after that, it has been a rocky sort of up and down health-wise and stuff. I mean, even now, I'm constantly up and down health-wise. It's very, very difficult. Even my leg. So we didn't know at the time, but I recently had a bone density scan that actually showed that my bone density was low and I needed to start replacement therapy for bone density. However, that was never acted on and it hasn't been. And then obviously then I fell and broke my leg, which when I then went into hospital, they almost couldn't believe that I only fell down. I slipped down the stairs and it was only not even half the staircase. So it was maybe about 5 or 6 steps. And I broke both my tibia and my fibia and needed it plated. So from the accident that I had, there's no way I should have done that amount of, if anything, I should have just sprained my ankle, if that. But because the side effects from the chemo has weakened my bones and it was never acted on, that's why I ended up with such a bad fracture. So even now, 2 years down the line, I'm still paying for all the treatment that I've had. Obviously, it's nothing compared to, the consequences of if I didn't have the treatment. However, it is still a massive, massive impact on my life. Like I said, I'll go through spells of having, 3-4 weeks, feeling really good, getting on with training, getting on with life in general, but then it will just, whatever it might be, because obviously I have a lot of, other health problems now from the treatment, but it's just a constant battle. Obviously, I'm nowhere near, this is where the survivor guilt comes in. So anyone in the community, like cancer community, will know what I mean. So this is where you feel guilty for surviving and moaning about the situation you're in. So I will try and not moan. So I've lost good friends through that, that I've met through Instagram. They unfortunately lost their life to cancer. So for me to now sit here and say, oh yeah, I feel really unwell for a couple of days out of a month, or I'm not able to do this. Oh, I broke my leg, because actually it makes me feel guilty for moaning about it, because I know that I survived and there's other people that didn't survive. So that plays a massive factor. That yet again, I think I'm still very honest with my social media. I'm still very honest, but there's still a lot that I don't discuss, and there's still a lot behind the scenes I don't disclose. And say, especially going to the gym, I'll still train really hard. A lot of people will be like, oh my God. And then I'm 3 hours ago, I was in bed in excruciating pain. No one sees that. Or do you know what I mean? So there's still a lot that I keep private, but equally there's still a lot that I do try and educate people on, because I didn't, yet again, even as a cancer nurse, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I kind of just thought you had your treatment, couple of months of side effects, and then you just kind of go back to normal. And I could honestly say I didn't realize how much it affects. So yes, you survived. Yes, you're still alive. But actually the long-term side effects of cancer treatment is huge. And I was never aware of that until I actually went through it.
So I guess for the audience, what would be a list of things that post-cancer has permanently changed for you that obviously wasn't the case pre-cancer?
So as a female, so I was, as soon as I had chemotherapy and radiation, I was then put into what they class as the early menopause, surgical menopause. So yet again, I was 28. So I had to go on to HRT. That was a whole new world for me as well, especially because there's such a huge correlation with going through the menopause and fitness, weight gain, everything like that. So that was another massive, massive learning curve for me. I was I've never even heard of HRT, replacement, hormone replacement, all of that. Why would I? I was 28. So the side effects that came with the menopause alone was huge. So yet again, you know, I mean, I was fortunate that I didn't have the typical like hot flushes and, you know, all of that, but I had a lot of like unconventional side effects. So yet again, I had a lot of muscle pain that I was like, why do I feel like I've just run a marathon? That was because of the menopause. But because I wasn't getting the replacement therapy, I wasn't aware. And the list, yet again, through social media, I've connected with some amazing like menopause specialists that I didn't even really know that job existed until I was in it. And yeah, they said like, oh, especially for somebody being younger, your bone health, your muscle mass, everything like that. So for me, the training side of things was massively affected. Energy. So the fatigue. So not only did I have fatigue from having my treatment, I've got the fatigue from the menopause as well, which yet again isn't something. So yet again, as a PT, if you ever do have clients that are in that, well, I can't even say age range because I wasn't, but if anyone that ever does sort of talk to you and disclose that they are going through the menopause, I just literally thought, oh, that's when they get really, oh yeah, my mum, yeah, she was just really moody for a few, you know, for a while. Oh yeah, hot flushes, but it's not like, there's so many other side effects. I think like the symptoms on stuff are huge and I just didn't realize. So that was the first thing, obviously the menopause. It's actually taken me 3 years to get an appointment with an NHS menopause specialist, which I think is absolutely crazy. For somebody that works for the NHS, and, you know, I do love the NHS, but 3 years for somebody that was in the early menopause at the age of 28, I should have been priority. It's taken me 3 years to go and see somebody. And I actually only had that appointment last month.
That's mad.
Yeah. So I've been on HRT replacement for the last 3 years. And actually I've gone to see him and he's like, you should be on at least this. You should be on at least this. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. And I was like, well, where were you 3 years ago? So in a way, I've kind of not had optimal treatment for the last 3 years, but it is what it is. So yeah, in terms of obviously menopause was huge. Not saying men don't get affected the same, because obviously if they've had similar treatment, their hormones are going to be affected as well. But obviously that was a huge thing for me. Then I had to have half my bladder removed. And I've had bladder reconstruction. For the first year, I had constant like urine infections that made me very unwell for a long time. But now I'm on constant antibiotics to prevent that. But it also means I have a small bladder, so I have to go toilet a lot. And yet again, that came with, I then was able to like use a disabled toilet and have, you know, a disabled key to get into toilets, which then straight away people would look at you and go, well, you're not disabled. And I'm like, you know, I've only got half a bladder and I can't hold like as long as you can sort of thing. So yet again, that came, especially when, you know, I go out dressed, like I look like this all the time, but I look like I'm going to the gym. People were like, oh yeah, you're clearly disabled. And I'm like, well, actually, then I've had radiation damage to my bowels, which was very difficult because I wasn't prepared for it. No one really told you about the side effects of radiation, and they didn't also explain to you that it's permanent damage. So there's no cure for it. So once you're like, whether it's been your pelvis, your bladder, your bowels, whatever's been damaged, that's irreversible. So that's something you've got to live with for the rest of your life. I then had the added complication that I had part of my bowel removed and part of my rectum removed when I had my big surgery. And then on top of that, I had a bowel obstruction. So I've had, you know, 2 bowel surgeries on top of that. So yet again, that's a huge ongoing battle that even now, 3 years later, I'm still having treatment for actively because that has a huge implication. The pain side of things, I don't think people realize that I still experience a lot of pain every day. So the actual side effects, like I said, I'll be living with them for the rest of my life and there's no cure. It's just all about managing it. But to look at me from an outside point of view, most people would just go, oh yeah, like, yeah, she goes to the gym, she looks fit and healthy. But actually on the inside, there's so much going on. I've got kidney failure as well, from the chemotherapy. So there's so many things that I have to think about every day just to even be able to function, to go to work or just to go out.
That is, that is very, very, for me not to have words is quite something. If anybody knows me, I always have words, and I have no way to describe what it. Listening to that is insane. To know, yes, we all celebrate and feel amazing about the fact that you've survived cancer, but in a way, the change that is caused in your life forever.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't. Most people get to live their day to day without going through all of that and without having to worry about all these things. And it wasn't just something that you got to walk away from.
And I think as well, the other thing that is not even now isn't openly talked about. So that's the physical side of things. The mental side of things, I think, potentially outweighs the physical side effects. So that, like I said, you've got the survivor's guilt. So you're forever thinking, oh God, like I don't want to complain about this because I'm still here. I should be fortunate. On top of that, you live in fear all the time that it's going to come back. So you're forever feeling like, I say, like, to people that I'm close with, I say, like, I feel like I'm living on borrowed time. So I shouldn't be here. And so every day, as much as it's a double-sided sword. So as much as I live in fear every day of like, oh my God, it's going to come back, it's only a matter of time. I've also been told by my consultant, yet again, I love her to pieces, but she's very blunt. And she basically said, put it this way, if you get cancer again, there's going to be no treatment for you. So that's going to be it, basically, which is the truth. But there's, that's what it is. So you're forever sort of living in fear. Every 3 months I have a scan. Every 3 months I go for an appointment to get them scan results. And I can't tell you, it feels as scary as it did the first ever time, every time I go. And people said to me, it gets easier every time. It doesn't. It gets worse every time. Because every time I'm thinking, this is it now.
Yeah.
Because I've already lived 18 months that I shouldn't have lived. So every time I go, I'm like, is this going to be it? This is the time. And it never gets easier. So you forever live in fear of it coming back. You're forever, like, for me, I'm always mourning the life that I used to have. So not only, like I said, not only did I lose, like, I've lost my future because I can't now have children. And that was something that I always wanted. So I'm forever living kind of like mourning the life that I feel like I should have had, or how else I sort of word it is, I'm sort of mourning the loss of a child that I'm never going to be able to have. So all them little things, going for an appointment that could be quite routine for somebody, for me, is really, really triggering. So them sort of like mental things, I don't think I ever spoke about openly. But yet again, I think that's just the mental health side of things, that people aren't that open and people don't want to admit that they're struggling. But like, I kind of work on a 3-month like time scale. So I'll kind of just had results. So I'll be on a massive high now. I'll be like, yeah, buzzing. And then in 2 months' time, that I'll have that scan. So then I'm like, oh, I've had that scan now. Then for the month that I have to wait for that appointment, I'm on a proper low. I'm like, oh God, like this could be it now. Like, so you're just constantly fighting all them feelings. And then as soon as I get the results again, I'm on a massive high again. But then that high only lasts until the next appointment. So it's just, you're just always on that kind of like wheel. It's actually a bit torturous when you think about it.